What's up, everybody? If you haven't been here in a while, neither have we. It's give and take. We took a little bit of a holiday break, but we're back at it again, playing some games by talking about the topics in Flesh and Blood. And we got some good ones today because the new meta is upon us. Heavy Hitters has impacted itself and pushed itself into the fore of the new meta. And we got, a lot of results, some results to talk about, and a lot of speculation going forward. But as always, if you don't know the format of the show, me and my two friends here are going to hang out, and I'm going to fire rapid-fire topics at them in the world of Flesh and Blood. If I like their answer, and if you like their answer, we can give them points. If we don't like their answer, maybe we take points away. Maybe we just don't give them points. I don't know. Maybe we kick them off and we invite someone on next week. I don't know. Maybe we're feeling violence today, chat. You tell us in a comment below. But we figured today's a pretty fun episode talking about the new heroes. So, Breezy, how's it going?
What up? It's been good, man. You've been world traveling. Dylan's moved across the country.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a lot. A lot's happened since the last time we've seen each other here.
It's been a hot minute, right?
Yeah.
What about you, Mr. Dylan TCG Talk? You got some news for us, actually, right?
Yeah, no. I was saying traveling across country. I traveled from Texas to Virginia by myself in a U-Haul in one shot, and then went back to get Reagan, and we blew a tire at 10 o'clock at night. So it took us longer to get here in a car with no stuff than it did me in the U-Haul. But no. Yeah, no news. I'll announce on the channel tomorrow, but I put it out on Twitter. But yeah, I'm gonna be doing Flesh and Blood content full time. We'll see how that goes. It's gonna be fun. Lots of stuff. Don't have to worry about right now. Go to my channel if you want to do stuff. But yeah,
that's pretty cool. So
sick.
I am quite excited for that because I know that there is a space to fill there, and I need to tune in. It gives me an opportunity to kind of tune in. So
yeah, I can't wait to chalk up how many hours at work that I spend just watching your stream. It's gonna be great.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Hopefully it works out.
Dude, that's the play right there. Just put it on in the background. I unfortunately cannot do that because I'm teaching during the day, so I can't exactly pipe in.
Oh, that'd be perfect for your kids. They'll love you. Just like teach them Flesh and Blood on the screen. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, see, dude, some of my kids at school this week discovered that I have a YouTube channel that, by the way, is well, see, I always have new kids. That's the best part. I always have new kids, right? Now we are only what is this? 77 subscribers away from hitting 18,000.
Nuts.
That's crazy.
That 17. Wow, that's pretty good, man. 17,000.
Hit 10. You've been skyrocketing.
We're just cruising, everybody. We're just having a good time. 10
subs?
Yeah.
You said oh gosh.
So that was interesting. Kids found out at school and they were like, "Mr. Cookus, what's your YouTube channel?" And I just would ignore the question, and it just drove them nuts. Oh, it was the best. Mm-hmm. Oh, it was so fun, just driving kids crazy. It's such a fun time. But yes, now it's time to drive the viewers crazy with our hot takes. Let's go ahead and jump into the first topic of today's video, and that is Heavy Hitters Limited, as the cat walks directly in front of the screen. That was perfect.
Here now.
Just bring the cat onto the stream. There's good to talk about, good stuff to talk about, I'm sure. Heavy Hitters Limited. This is rapidly become, in many people's opinions, the best limited set in Flesh and Blood history. And I am hard pressed to find a better answer for what is the best set in as far as limited is concerned. So my question to both of you is this: do you think that the Heavy Hitters Limited experience, from what you've played or from what you've viewed, because there's been some fantastic streams, including today's calling stream over in Liverpool, based on what you've played and what you've seen, do you feel like Heavy Hitters is the de facto best set from a limited perspective? And we'll start with Dylan. What is your take?
Yeah, so it's really hard. So there's like an objective and a subjective part of this. So my subjective answer for me, my favorite from a casual and thematic perspective, is probably still Outsiders, just because I liked everything about that set. But I think there's no arguing from a competitive standpoint. I do think it's now probably the best set in limited. I can't think of a set where I've been playing since the beginning of Monarch, really. And from a like pure competitive perspective, it is the best set. And the good thing about this set that I really enjoy in comparison to like Outsiders or even Bright Lights was the set mechanics are pretty easy to grasp quickly, but the depth of play is like insane. And I think that's where this set is really good because new players can grasp it very quickly. There's no arcane, there's no crazy stuff. You just got to keep track of the tokens, obviously. But the depth of play for highly competitive players is really nice, which is good. And then my final point is, and this is, I think this could, I personally think this contributes to how well it's felt and limited from a casual perspective. Is this is the first set where there was no like pricing for the winner at pre-releases or pricing stuff like that. Well, no, like more pricing. Like everybody got the same thing, which to me made it just a lot more about fun and learning the set, which I think contributes to the general consensus of this is a really fun format, right? Because new players don't feel as intimidated. Everybody's getting the same thing. No one feels bad. Maybe that doesn't contribute as much holistically, but at least from my perspective, the pre-releases I went to just felt, and that's the only thing I've had so far, have felt really good. But yeah, overall, from a competitive standpoint, I can't think of a set that's been smoother so far.
Some really good points. Way to come out swinging on that one. Breezy, what are
Yeah,
your
wow.
opinions on this?
Oh man, yeah, I've seen. I mean, I've seen a lot of discourse about like the best thing since Welcome to Wraith. Which Welcome to Wraith, like a lot of people weren't here for that, right? It really was. It stood the test of time for it being the first set. It just a tip of the hat to James White and the whole team for choosing Welcome to Wraith as the starting set, because look at the precedent. People are comparing today's best set to the very first set, and honestly, it's not wrong. So it is the 2024 Welcome to Wraith. It's the Welcome to Wraith 2.0 that is for people that didn't get to experience it, and they don't have to, again, to Dylan's point, like they don't have to deal with arcane, they don't have to deal with like weird plagues and things that Outsiders brought. It's so simple to get right into, but opens up so much depth. And what I noticed too is, and I was just like sorting some bulk, and I was like, man, there's really no like dead cards. Nothing feels
Mm-mm.
chaffy. Nothing feels like, I'd hate to see this in a pack. Everything's so wide open. Everything's so flexible. The introduction of the dual class really, I think, had Welcome to Wraith had that, this is what that would be. And I think that's what was potentially missing, the missing link in helping to propel this to trump that as, at least in limited format, the best set. I only had my personal experience is just that one that we all attended was the pre-release, but I mean, at no point did I feel like, oh, I guess I got to do this. Like I could have very well played any hero
Mm.
and probably had a good time and enjoyed myself. But you read the cards as you do in any limited format, and nothing felt like I was at the whim of my packs. And so I think because of that, you feel the weight a little bit. You get to enjoy yourself. You immerse yourself a little bit more. Just it checks so many boxes that Welcome to Wraith did, and so I'm happy for it.
Well, let me follow this question up with I guess a question that qualifies whether or not you think this is the best set in limited. In order for me to give that title out personally, I would have to feel like when I sit down, I am open and available to play any hero, and there's not like any specific hero that sticks out as just like unplayable, for example.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of those question marks that people are trying to discover right now within both the previous callings that have been sealed format. Are there heroes that are just unplayable in comparison to the others within this set? And if so, first of all, which of those heroes are they? And are we just not far along enough within our thinking within the set to discover the truth about it? What are your takes on that, Breezy?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. There, like Reinar versus Kayo. Why would you? In my opinion, your card pools are going to look very similar. It's just a matter of almost like, what are your agencies for go again? Essentially, like if you get a lot of agility and things like that, you're probably going to run KO. If not, you kind of tank up and go Reinar. And from what my experience and just seeing outwardly, like on Twitter and social media, and even like some limited like tips and guides and stuff on YouTube, like no one's really having a huge success with Rhinar, and likewise, I'd say the same is happening with Olympia and Kasai. Kasai just has their abilities are so similar, but Kasai's has just like a slight leg up where she can threaten on hits. Where Olympia's like, cool, I can I do things with gold, just not to the caliber or extremities that Kasai can. And so, yeah, I think that that is the almost like they Welcome to Wraith had the 4 heroes, and this has
Mm.
your 6. Had this had 4 heroes, would it be a better set, or not? Maybe not better, but maybe a tighter set and less um, heroes left in the dust for sure. I think had it just been Kayo, Kasai, Victor, and who am I missing?
Betsy,
Betsy. Well, yes, yeah,
and
yeah,
not
like two guard.
Rhinar. And okay.
Yeah, not Rhinar and not Olympia. I think the set would have been like pure gold. I don't know. I
Hmm.
mean, maybe that's me because I don't see Rhinar, especially without a tweak to his hero ability. I don't see,
But it's
in my opinion, any real reason. If your cards are just right and you find your agilities, you're gonna play. You're probably gonna just play KO and swing for like 16 go again.
Dylan, what are your takes on this question?
so me and Parker normally agree, but I actually disagree with Parker for once. This is funny. No,
Yes.
which is a good thing. No, so there's two sides. There's sealed and there's draft. So at the calling, Hartford, all 6 heroes are represented in the top 8, right, in draft. There was literally every single hero was top 8. Reinar was third, fourth, and Alexander Vor honestly was one really unlucky discard away from getting in the final, which he probably would have won because that Reinar deck was tight as crap. So I think from a draft perspective, every hero is completely open. I think even watching and listening back to Hayden Dale talk with Brian Gottlieb about his draft, and like you could see Hayden was like, I mean, it's in a good way because he'll say like he was near embarrassed that he didn't stay open quick enough, right? I think a lot of people are learning like in Outsiders, Outsiders is probably the closest to this set in my opinion as far as like how you draft because you have to like you have the dual class cards. And then that set, I felt like you had to kind of pick your lane a little bit quicker. And Assassin was just good, right?
Yeah.
But in this set, I feel like you're like now fighting like you can stay open longer, right? Like I heard Ellie, she pivoted pack 3, which like threw off the whole freaking pool, but like she was able to do that, and you would never be able to do that in any other set. So I do think that I don't think any heroes left in the dust, especially from draft. Even Reinar, like if you get a bunch of yellow mighty windups and you just intimidate people to death, making two, like you intimidate twice, making 2 might tokens, and then hit someone with the fangs, for 8, and you took 2 cards out of their hand, they probably, because there's so many 2 blocks, just took 4 or 6 to the face, and then you have 2 mites on your other turn. Like I think there's a lot of depth to this set, and I think people are realizing, like, yes, 100% KO is the most open, right? Because the hero ability lets them be open. I think that Victor specifically and Reinar require the most qualifiers to have a tight deck. Victor the most, in my opinion, even more than Reinar, because he wants those block cards. He wants if you can't generate gold, why ever play Victor, right? In my opinion, you just play Betsy. But so there are heroes that have more qualifiers, but in Outsiders, like as much as I love that set, you win Assassin. Like no one's picking Benji unless you just got the most god Benji pool in the history of the world. But in this set, like I legitimately feel like you open 6 packs, you could go any hero. There's no hero that's like up, doesn't matter. And even the pre-release we played at, like I was gonna go Olympia till the very last second, and then I was like, wait, I have a lot of yellows. I should just play Kasai, right? And I didn't like. So there's certain qualifiers that I think will leave the format more open. So I truly don't think there's a bad hero in this set. I think especially in draft, I think the Colin Harper kind of proved that. Honestly, sorry about that.
I'm going to give you my take on this because I asked this question as I guess sort of like a red herring or a devil's advocate. I personally think, I personally think that this is the best set in Limited, and that there are no closed off heroes unless you're talking specifically about Victor in Sealed. I think he's the hardest to put together, but I think every hero has a different place and they fit in very uniquely. And I think you do have to have certain things for certain decks, but I think it's so well designed in that in order to like sit down at the table, all you need to know is one of these 3 classes. And if you have the, like I guess a more sporadic pool, you can have a lot more variety within your pool, and you can go one of the heroes. And then if you have more specialized like pools specifically, you can go the other hero and make it really good. So Olympia is very good if you pull a bunch of wager cards, because those wager cards are like 3 for 7s or 3 for 6s. Like, so those are very good cards for Olympia specifically. And if you don't pull those cards, well, the warrior pool, most likely, as long as you have some number of yellows, leans you towards Kasai. And the same thing is true for Rhinar with intimidate effects and lack of agility, versus Kayo, which is just like win the game if you play Kayo. It's very simple, right? And then the same thing applies in some respects towards Victor and Betsy, but I think a little less so. Nevertheless, I think it's incredibly well designed for sealed format. And then, like you said, draft is definitely wide open for just about anyone to pick up and take, which has been proven thus far. And I did actually go 3-1 in sealed, but then this jerk named Dylan beat me with Kasai on. I was on Victor. So even he's kind of okay if you can find gold generation. But yeah, Dylan had to go and like spoil the party by being really good at the game and a nice person. Gosh, can you believe it?
I know. And I had to be a nice guy and just let him win.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have done it.
Yeah, you shouldn't have done it, so that I could have maybe gotten a 4-0.
Next time I play with you, I'm just gonna auto concede both games.
I could have posted I went 4-0 at my pre-release. Right. Alas, I only said 3-1. That's how it goes. All right, so that's topic number 1. But topic number 2 leads us into some of the results that we've seen thus far over the first week to 2 weeks of classic constructed and blitz play within these new metas of heavy hitters. And we're going to start off by kicking things off with the battle harden that was played over in Manila. So let's jump into topic 2, because Victor walks in on day 1, or I guess technically day 2 of the set being out, and just picks up a win in a major battle hardened tournament, in a blitz tournament in Manila. So my question to both of you is, first things first, is Victor just the best guardian now in this format, in the blitz format? What do you think? TCG talk.
That's so hard. Blitz is so wide open right now. I mean, we had how many heroes LL last season? Like 5 or 6.
Just a couple.
Yeah, I think this format's gonna be pretty nuts. Like Dash is there, so there's some really good aggro decks at the top, right? You have Briar, Dash, technically Dorinthia in Blitz is almost like an aggro deck because she got Blade Flurry and all these crazy tools now. I still think Victor is going to be the best. Not Victor. Bravo is going to be the best guardian in Blitz. I think the crush effect and the ability to dominate is just so good with the lower life totals. And plus with the block cards, like it is very good, but this might be bias coming in. If you're going to play like heavy fatigue or like block fatigue, I would just play Arachne or play even Uziri or an assassin. I think they do it a little bit better personally. Victor's going to be good. It's going to win games, but I think Blitz honestly is so much fun right now. Like there's literally 10 heroes you could play in Blitz and it would make complete sense at like a skirmish or more, like honestly. And also Victor, I want to see how the other thing we're thinking about is, and we've talked about it privately, is Emperor is really good now, I think.
Yep.
And
a little.
Yep.
Yeah, a little.
Decent.
But Victor's gonna, like, how does AB fit into Victor's kit, which is a little bit easier in Blitz. But yeah, overall, I think to answer your question, I think Bravo is still a better guardian. I think I value the crush effect more. Because Overpower is just, it's a little bit easier to play around, but Victor's still gonna be good, still gonna win events.
All right, what do you think, Breezy? Tell me, is Victor the best hero in Blitz or the best guardian in Blitz? Or was this just a one-time thing from a great player in Justin Koo taking it down and surprising people?
Yeah, I mean, his effect is essentially like a ponder, right? Which can be fantastic, right? Like, especially his headpiece, right? So at any given point, he can kind of full block you and then refill his hand. So that's kind of it's kind of busted, especially if you can find ways to manipulate when you make your gold what is it? It's Test of Strength.
Mm-hmm.
Just the
Yeah,
rare
Test of
four
Strength.
generic 4 block. Like if you win that, you draw a card. So
Yep.
his
It
his
replaces
ability to
itself.
exactly his ability to be able to block and replace it and clap back with something, even if it's just the Miller's Hammer, which threatens to literally mill your deck. So I think ultimately it's just that weapon that he's able to like bridge the gap of like Guardian. Yeah, sure, we can block out and we can fatigue, but he can refill and replace his hand. It reminds me of, I don't know what it is, but he's got like a dusting of old him. Like I can smell something
Oh,
about
all the
him.
older players, yeah, went straight to
Yeah.
Victor.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah.
exactly. And I think that mindset paired with this hero ability is just, it just like unlocked something for people. I don't see it personally. I still think that I think Bravo's still got legs. I think Yoji and Blitz is still silly if you build the right deck, you know? So,
Mm.
but yeah, no, I think Victor, it could have just been region, meta, lack of preparedness, people just not really fully understanding what kit he received in heavy hitters. It was what, 2 days after release, too.
Yeah.
I think it was like a perfect storm. The cards just fell right, but also amazing player, like, right? Incredible player mind, built a deck that knew to go into this event where people were not going to expect this deck. So, um, is it the best Guardian? Maybe momentarily, until people are like, "Oh, okay, I see your tricks." Never, not that good.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
think he's super efficient. I think it's incredibly efficient and incredibly threatening. I
There's
am
something
hard
about his face. I
pressed.
I don't want to say he is just because of his face. I don't want. I hate it. I hate it so much.
It's so good though. It's
The
like
thing
just
that
looks down on everyone.
Yeah, look at him.
Blitz is a
Ugh.
little bit different because of lower life totals, but like I don't know. This is just my and maybe I just haven't played a really, really, really good Victor yet, right? But the deck is very much consistent, extremely consistent and efficient, but there's very little tricks to that deck. You know what's coming. You
Yep.
know they want to make gold. You know they want to draw a card. You know they want to play Golden Sun. They might hit you with a debilitate or a spinal crush every now and then. But like the thing about Victor that I've noticed, at least from my opinion, is once Victor falls behind, it's very hard for them to catch up because they don't have that swingy play that like Bravo does, right? Like discard a card. I have met a couple of Victors that are sprinkling in pummels, so we'll see how that goes. But like,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
which always is a thing. Anyway, Blitz is different in CC, I know, but I just think Bravo has the ability to say like, "Oh, I draw the right hand, you lose the game," whereas like Victor to me is just really, really consistent. Like I said, I think Blitz is just so open. There's so many good heroes right now.
All right, so follow-up question on the Blitz format. What other heroes, if we've already seen Victor take down an event and get immediate living legend points on day 2 of the format, what other heroes stick out to you? We've talked about it a little bit already, but what other heroes in this format stick out to you as possible either newcomers from heavy hitters that could be doing some stuff, or heroes that are up and coming that perhaps are waiting in the wings and have gotten that new card from heavy hitters and gained some extra power? Breezy, what do you got for us?
I mean, I think Reinar has been a powerhouse in Blitz. I remember, I mean, it was probably like mid last year. I took Reinar to a Blitz armory and literally killed a dude turn 0 on a double blood rush turn, made him intimidate his whole hand, hit him for like 19, and then swung claw or something. It was just like he has that power. And then
That's
with,
worse than Kano.
yeah,
You need to
right.
ban that hero.
It
Ban
could
him to the
be.
ground.
It's weird because he had all AB too. He thought I was. No, I'm just kidding. Uh, no. And now with like beat chest mechanic, being able to pick and choose when you want to intimidate, or like rather than as an additional cost, you have to
Mhm.
do this. So he can create a little bit more consistency with, picking and choosing those kinds of things, or when he wants to hold back and brick wall up, and then okay, now I can unleash. But as long as Blood Rush Bellow is in the format, I think he's gonna have a lot to say. But then I think also I don't think Vincent got anything from the set in the form of Sonata Galaxia with Blitz per se, but she's kind of nutty in Blitz as well. She's really good. I still play her all the time in Blitz right now.
Dylan, what are your takes on up and coming heroes in this? Either because they got a new card from heavy hitters, or maybe they're a heavy hitters hero themselves.
I think Kayo's going to speed run Blitz. Like that deck is just so stupid. It like you take the damage that deck can do, and you put yourself at 20 life, and people are just going to cry. Like I don't know. I think that deck's going to be extremely relevant. I think that Briar obviously wasn't talked about a ton because so many heroes LL, but she's going to be insanely good. She'll LL probably pretty quick. She's over 400 points.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at like Briar, KO is really good. Emperor, I think, is going to be really fun to watch because Emperor is just the one deck where it's like, I don't care if you have AB4 in your sideboard. You don't know to run AB2 or AB1 or AB4, right? Like we've all talked about, like maybe there's a general consensus on what the best one is, but overall, you don't know what to run. And I think Emperor is a deck where if the trend the first week is there's a lot of AB Emperors or Arcane Emperors going around, then all of a sudden you come in with this like red line, like Dromai style, just all attack actions, and they sided out two defensive pieces on their equipment suite. Like you can just really like throw people off. So I think Emperor is gonna be really good. But yeah, similar to what I said, I think there's I'm looking at the list. I see 15 heroes. If I saw them at a skirmish, I'll be like, that makes sense. Like I could see you winning it or playing that. So and really the question is like, what hero isn't playable other than merchants, which I don't count because they're just fun heroes. But I think there's like every hero and maybe Melody, but even like Brevant. We saw Brevant win an event last like season, right? So, and that's in the Tulane Community College kit. As I have a cat that's trying to get up here.
I think Shiana got a lot from this set. I wonder if Shiana can put something together.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I've actually never sat down against Shiana. I'm not gonna lie to you.
We gotta get somebody on Shiana. I know a few people that love Shiana. Blitz format. Blitz format is in a really cool and really crazy spot after all the shifts from the last time and this new set. I agree. I do think I think Kayo has some game in Blitz and can be built in a very just like hair on fire type aggro deck. But we'll see, and hopefully we'll see fairly soon as more people pick the format up and run with it. But that's topic number 2 in the books. I am just a fan of Blitz, and so I could talk about Blitz at length, but now we're going to talk about the classic constructed format, because we had two big talking points, in my opinion, in the classic constructed format over last weekend, and we're geared up and almost ready to have another talking point starting tomorrow, in a couple of hours, in fact, because of the time difference, because the Battle Hardened will be kicking off over in Liverpool. But the classic constructed format is really shifting around in a lot of respects. It was really fun to see so many tier lists leading up to the beginning of this classic constructed format, because a lot of those tier lists had a lot of the same kind of picks in the same places. And some of them didn't. Some of them shifted them around. And then looking at how those, the perception of some of the new heroes and some of the well-positioned or not well-positioned heroes has changed over the course of the past week, and how that's affected people playing on Talishar. It has been a blast. We'll just put it that way. It's been a blast. And the first thing that really cemented this new change in the CC format is our third topic. And that happens to be the fact that Yuki Lee Bender on Kayo wins the classic constructed Battle Hardened over in Hartford. I know one of these people, in fact, perhaps both of them, but I know one of these people has played a few games of Kayo. So let's start with Dylan. What is your take on Kayo in the classic constructed format? And how powerful do you think he is? Is he an A-tier hero? Is he an S-tier hero? Is he lower than that for some reason? Because he just won a Battle Hardened.
No, I mean, I will plead to the masses here. There are no S-tier heroes, because I know even LSS employees were joking about that, about how there's like 5 S-tier heroes on tier list. No, I think KO is in a vacuum the most powerful brute. I think it's pretty obvious, honestly. But I've said this, and some people have agreed with me, some people have disagreed. I think every brute currently right now, which is really fun for the class, is better in different formats. I think in a wide open format that you don't know like what the format's going to be, or it's like you're not sure what to tech for, I think KO is your best option. It's the best value deck out of the 3. It does the most consistent damage turn to turn. It has crazy swing turns, has a lot of flexibility, has really good play in the Guardian, which I think is going to be the most represented class of all the classes. So KO is like your best. However, if the format goes very fatiguey and you're skilled, I think Levi is the best to pick. I think Levi has a lot of armor block, a lot of ways to like in games if you know how to pitch correctly and like play your and like maneuver that deck with efficiency. And then, and then also Reinar is really good in the fatigue, right? So like all of these like that, even Reinar might even be better in the fatigue. What I'm trying to say is every brute is better into different things. I think one thing it's gonna be interesting to see. It's not confirmed yet, but I think KO is definitely the most prone to disruption. I've also been playing a lot of Arachne the last week, and I have literally eaten KOs for breakfast because, like, if I rip a card or two out of your hand, and then I have D reacts, like you're not gonna do anything. It's not blowouts by any means, but the deck really gets hurt. Like Uziri just like plays around with KO because it just really hurts really bad. So it'll be interesting to see if people can do that, start adding pummels in the deck, adding crush effects on Guardian, stuff like that can really stunt what KO's trying to do. But then the question does the deck just become refined and new pilots get more skilled?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Overall, I think in a vacuum though, like not knowing the meta, KO is the most powerful brute, but Yuki Liebender is also arguably one of the best pilots period in our game, so she probably made the deck look even better than it is. Honestly, even watching back 2 of her games on the Savage Feed channels, what she did against that Leviah to like take damage to force the Leviah into like a blood debt situation to clear the grave, like she knows what she's doing with that deck already in the very short amount of time. So that's another thing to it.
What do you think, Breezy? What is your take? And lay it out to us on CC and KO.
Dude, the deck is nutty. I got I don't remember what it was, but Dylan was like, "Oh, KO," because he was the one that caught my attention, and right out of spoiler season, I was like, "I've had Reinar, we've seen it. Regardless of the new cards we get, I want to see what this dude does." Because Brute's one of the first classes I learned the game with, so I was like, "This feels nostalgic. Let's try it." But I was so busy with work and everything, I couldn't build a deck. And I saw Dylan. He's like, "Dude, it's crazy." I was like, "Just send me your list. Give me a jump start. Give me a head start. I don't have time to build a deck." And I literally didn't change a single thing and was doing like 19 go again without even really knowing how to
swing
play
big
the
for
deck.
18 go again. You're like,
Yeah.
what the heck is going on?
Yeah, I was like, wait, I literally have never played this deck, but everything. The thing about KO, what feels interesting to me is that like take Viserai or Kano, or there's like all these little decision points that can like I misplay. KO feels so much like your plan is in the cards. You see it right there, or you don't have it. If you have it, you have it, and if you don't, and you kind of build your deck that way, right? Like you're not building your deck to be strategic with blocks, dude. You have like upwards of 9 no blocks. You have a plan. You know what you're doing. It's literally go big or die, and that's it. But because of that, like Dylan mentioned, he is prone to fatigue. There's been tons of games where it's like, thank goodness I pitch stacked my last like wild ride or something because I have 6 cards left and I can have one final push. But had I not, it's GG's. There's but because of that, I think that KO right now is the better of the brutes between Reinar and him in CC. Leviah though is terrifying, and just like I think her kit is just more maybe just more unified because she has such unique tools that only she can use. Therefore, she uses them best and better than anyone can. So yeah, she terrifies me. I think between the two, I think Leviah would have a better standing though. Yeah.
So for my opinion, and I figured I'd keep this one a little short since it's really all about KO. I think KO and CC is a powerhouse, and I think there are a lot of people that look at that deck and they immediately think, okay, it's sort of a by the numbers deck. You know what you're getting, and it's fairly simple to play and pilot. And I think that's a benefit, and I think that is a design feature from the LSS team. That is a great deck to pick up and run with if you're learning the game of Flesh and Blood, and I think those decks are incredibly important to have in the game. I do think it is prone to disruption, and I'm really interested to see what people do to combat I guess a league, which is basically what we're about to see, a league of KO players just jumping into the fray. And I think things like pummel and things like on-hit disruption are going to make for a much more interesting and more fun kind of back and forth, because then you get to play that fun little cat and mouse game we might talk a little bit later of, okay, well, if those are, if the people are going to be bringing decks that do this, this, and this, how do I stop those decks? The A, B, and C meta is really, really fun. But before we talk about that, I want to talk about one more thing in Classic Constructed, and this one's near and dear to my heart because I'm a big fan of this new hero. That is Kasai. Kasai is so freaking cool. I have not stopped playing Kasai since I got back from Queenstown. I just head over heels for this hero, so much so that I bought the Marvel, which is hilarious because I just opened a couple of boxes that I got in today, and I opened the Marvel Olympia, and he was the one that I was playing a ton with. So now I have the Marvel Warrior set, but not only is she really fun to play, she's really cool. She also top-8'd 2 different Battle Hardens this past weekend. And as of maybe an hour ago when I was watching the AGE Open, which, by the way, y'all should go watch because it's a fantastic watch, there was a player, and I forgot the name, apologies, I forgot the name, but there's a player sitting at the top tables with Kasai that absolutely put on a masterclass into U.S. National Champion Charles Dunn on stream, playing basically a fatigue Bravo list. This hero was sort of underrated in a lot of people's sort of tier lists and just overall general takes coming out of the set. There were people basically saying that Kasai is just a slightly worse version of, like, why would you play Kasai instead of, just playing Dorinthia, because Dorinthia has all these tools. Is there I guess a bias towards or away from Kasai, do you think? Or is this one of those examples of a hero coming onto the scene, people kind of underrating her, and everyone's sort of figuring it out after a few weeks? Are we going to figure out that Kasai is a little less powerful than she first appears? What do you think, Breezy?
Oh man, I feel like she's probably slightly, well, she's got a lot of hype, right? Like, people wanted Kasai so bad. I don't think that people anticipated that she'd be so drastically different with her, raising an army, her gold mechanic, and people just wanted to play adult blood on her hands, essentially, which you still can. You very well still can, and you probably should. I had some skepticism about it, and I've been proven wrong. You can still very much blood on her hands blow out as an adult, but I think she still portrays everything that you want about a warrior. Between Dorinthia and her, I think she's got a little bit more. Gosh, I just had a flashback of Axe's or Decimator Axe Dorinthia, which is horrible. Not that one. When we talk about Dorinthia, I'm not talking about like Dawnblade Dorinthia. I think that she just has a little bit more, I don't know, capacity to like manage her hand. Kasai does. Dorinthia is like, you can just be like, okay, no block. Oh, I kind of needed you to block there so that I could like do this thing. But here, if I know block, like, oh, you're gonna make gold, or oh, you're gonna make copper, and I'm gonna pay for this later. So yeah, she just has a little bit more damned if you do, damned if you don't, almost. Where Dorinthia is kind of an old pony. You kind of see it coming from a mile away. You're just like, oh, yeah, I get that trick. I got it. Kasai still has those tricks up her sleeve. People aren't so familiar with them. I think she'll fall right into a perfect place. And like, I'm not going to put her in a tier. I'm not going to make a virtual tier list right now, but I don't think she's underpowered right now. And I don't think she's overpowered. I think she's going to be exactly where she needs to be, which is going to be somewhere in the top meta. I truly believe she's going to be able to stand with, not like the A tiers of the world, but she's going to be up there fighting for her spot for sure.
What do you think, Dylan?
Kasai is very good. She's better than Dorinthia, in my opinion, because Dorinthia, like Parker said, is a lot. Sometimes requires either a high roll or B, the right cards to fall in place. Kasai is going to do the same freaking thing every turn. Yes, there are certain turns that are more underpowered than others, but like when you're a deck and you say, how do I stop Kasai? Even a fatigue oriented deck, like what do you tech, right? Like, do you run more non-attacks to help combat sabers? Do you like, you know what I mean? Like, there's just me thinking, and maybe I'm just not the quality player that others are, but I can't tell you, like, as a KO player, how do you play better than a Kasai? High roll higher, you know, like as a Bravo
Right.
player, how do you play better than a Kasai? Run more D reacts. Okay, well, they have 2 weapons, right? Like, they could easily like fatigue you just as easy. You can fatigue them. So there's like no way to real tech into Kasai. It's the same thing in Blitz, right? It's the same thing she was in Blitz, where it's like this impending consistency that's going to just outvalue you over time. And she has some skill expression. One of the testing groups I'm in, Mortimer, he's in the chat, Kyle, has been playing Kasai and doing really well in his ability to like switch into basically like, okay, in this matchup I need to play for Raise an Army game plan.
Yep.
All right, in this matchup I need to try during copper and do a pop off. You know, are you like when I play him as Arachne or anyone else, like every time he plays spoils or every time he activates Kasai, most of the time I have to say, okay, I gotta block this turn. I can't
Mhm.
Yep.
I can't let you have that stuff.
Yeah.
So she is deceptively has more on hits than you think. And when you think about her bad matchups, in my opinion, one bad matchup is Jeremiah. Jeremiah sucks. But Jeremiah, in my opinion, this might be spicy. She's a good deck, but I think the longer the format goes this season, the more you'll see her go out of it. That's just my opinion. Her other terrible matchup is Kano. So we'll see if Kano gets better. But those are like her only 2 really bad matchups. Everything else is favored or 50-50. So it'll be interesting to see. My biggest question mark is how many events does she win? I think Kasai is always going to be a deck where you see one in the top 8, but do they win? Right? It's kind of like how Dash was for a while, where you always saw a Dash in the top 8, but
Yep.
how often did Dash actually win that event? And maybe it wasn't as often. So that's my take. Is she's a top 8 perennial top 8er, but does she convert and actually win the events? Is the biggest thing.
Yeah, I think that hits on one of my thoughts. If you're looking for my take, I think overall, my belief on the subject after playing her for just a ridiculous amount of time is that she is a fantastic mid-range deck. Probably, I would say maybe one of the top 3 mid-range decks like in the game, period, end of story, because she's so consistent. And I think that consistency pays off very well for her. I think she's incredibly flexible and she can be built in multiple different ways. And I think for all of those reasons, she's, in my opinion, a solid A tier hero that can go and consistently, well, fairly consistently hit top 8s in mid tier events and maybe even slightly higher events like callings and things like that, especially as more people just push that way down and try to, like figure her deck out further and just, become a better player on her. I do think she was underrated in a lot of people's tier lists, simply because I feel like it's super easy to look at her and go, well, she just does this one thing. It can't be that good. And yeah, she does several things that are very easy to see on paper, but when you dive deeper into those things, the value that you're getting is super solid. Like in fatigue matchups, I can make Centauri sellswords that are non-poppable like allies that if I'm attacking you with 2 swords and also just a single Centauri sellsword, now you're having to block both swords or at least one sword and a Centauri sellsword, or you're having to just give me damage so that you can take that off the board. And then in aggro matchups, she has the capacity to just have big pop-off turns if you've built the deck in a specific way. And so I think she is definitely underrated, but the question will be, does she face down enough bad matchups and enough disruption in a possible upcoming disruption meta that she gets pushed down the tier list? And that is where I am most curious. But it does bring us to our final topic, unless either of you want to say things before we jump into it.
I was going to say one thing. It's something to be points oriented, but I think, this is not a dig at anyone. I'm just saying, I think a lot of top players, in my opinion, are used to the old days of Flesh and Blood, of Chain, Lexi, Briar, Oldheim, where you just had these stupid pop-off decks that were, like, to be frank, like sexy decks, right? And they're like, oh, Kasai, she didn't really do anything. Well, it's because your brain is Tales of Aria. Your brain is not what it is now. And the game is definitely, like, no one can argue the game has changed now, right? Like, yes, KO can do some nutty stuff, right? But overall, this game is much more like mid-range value-based than it's ever been. And I think people need to start looking at, like, before it was variance-based, right? Like, what decks could just win the game? And now I think decks now are going to be starting to be valued of like, okay, decks that do the same thing every turn. Like Charles Dunn is a perfect proponent of that. He always picks decks that like have a singular game plan. It's just this impending doom. He's also a very good, amazing player. But like, I think that's where the game is going, and I think it's going to take a couple events for people to realize like, okay, the high variance decks, they're kind of gone for right now. So maybe the decks that aren't sexy are the better decks, to be honest. So
we might see that here this next, I guess tomorrow, but here in a few hours with the time change, as the Battle Hardened will kick off in, I don't know, 8 hours or so, if my math is correct, maybe less actually now at this point, over in Liverpool. Nevertheless, that's a perfect segue to our final topic, which is the classic constructed meta going forward. So today we're going to make it a full tier list of all the heroes in the classic constructed meta because Breezy had... No, we're not going to do that.
Oh my gosh, we didn't know this.
I did not know S tier, dude. Yeah.
No,
wrap it up.
We're not making a tier list. That will be next episode. We will do a full tier list after we gained the benefit of watching multiple events go down. No, we don't have to do that. I'm totally kidding. Nevertheless, I do want to talk about where the CC meta is heading in your opinion, because to me, this is the #1 question mark that most viewers and audiences are trying to ask themselves and are really enjoying having conversations about. And it's one that I think is perhaps the most fascinating conversation that we could have. Is the game has slowed down. The game is much more varied and more open than ever before. So where do we see this heavy hitter set take the classic constructed meta? TCG Talk, you're going to get the first talk on this one, so fire it away.
I think this is going to be the best meta we've ever had, and I think it's not close. I think there is, other than Jeremiah, which I'm not saying is a negative thing, there's no gatekeep decks. Every meta we've had, there's been a deck that says you cannot play these 5 heroes because this deck exists. Icelander was one, right? You couldn't play certain hero. I mean, you could, but if you run to an Icelander, you lose. Oldheim was one. Even Starvo, even in the Aggro Days Chain was one where like they wiped out a quarter of the meta just by existing. There is very few decks in the game that do that right now, right? Jeremiah kind of does it with certain decks, but even those matchups, like me as Arachne, which isn't a high tier hero, I don't feel bad about playing Arachne right now because my only like auto loss matchup, in my opinion, is Jeremiah. If they're even competent, like even Victor, which is it feels terrible. Like I feel like I can play. I have some agency into that matchup if my cards come out right. So overall, my initial take is I'm super excited about the CC meta. I think there's literally 10 heroes you could play where if you took them to a calling, I'd be like, that makes sense. They're actually trying to day 2 with that hero. And it also leaves some skill expression for like these more rogue decks, right? Like a Max, right? Max was like getting top 8 in the Manila, I think, or was up there. Or like a Kano. Obviously, Kano's the biggest one, right? Kano really does have some issues sometimes, but really has a chance of just spiking in an event. I think even Prism, right? Like if Prism gets the right matchups in an event, she just steamrolls, right? There's a couple matchups that feel really bad, but talented Prism players are actually doing pretty well right now into a large majority of the matchups, aside from like 1 or 2. So I think there's going to be definitely a couple events this year where you're going to see like a random, a Max, Prism, or a Dio, not Dio, but like someone just like that. So overall, I'm super happy with it. I don't think there is not a hero right now where I could say like this is the deck to beat. I couldn't tell you one right now personally, going into this, at least early on.
Parker, what are your thoughts on the meta and the CC meta going forward with these new heroes and where you think things are settling or moving towards?
Yeah, man. I think whenever Icelander hit LL, like Dylan's saying to his point, like there's been this gatekeeper where everyone's just like, whew, she's gone. I can go. Now I can play around and explore. And then usually that era lasts for like 2 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. And then the meta's rediscovered. And then there's like another top 4. And then it's done that rinse and repeat. But whenever Icelander LL'd, it's like that rinse and repeat hasn't happened. We are still, and I've kind of noticed it's like this specialist era of the meta where people have been freely able to just explore and explore and explore and be like, okay, I'm getting somewhere. It might not be like I can go 19-0 undefeated to send me to Worlds. I'm ready to roll with a a whatever deck right now, but it nothing feels bad. Nothing feels like, ugh, I gotta sit across the table from this person like, hey, GG's, let's just concede. I want to go eat. Like every deck or every hero that you sit down across with whatever deck you feel comfortable with right now, like everyone has like I can just feel like everyone has a level of confidence and be like, let's see how this goes. This feels like it could really go either way. Dromai, I think, really, Dromai is like the last one in
Hmm.
my opinion. Once she goes, people are gonna be like, oh cool, I don't have to carry like all these poppers, or oh cool, I don't have to
That's a
worry
good
about
point.
dragons. Okay, I don't have to, because right now people are like sideboard. I gotta keep the CNC in. My deck doesn't really care about CNC, but I gotta keep the CNC in. Got to keep the Fiendo's fighting spirit in for whatever reason, because like even Prism right now, I don't care about poppers right now. Like poppers or whatever. Like I'd rather play the game the way that my hero wants to play it than forge in a bunch of poppers. Where right now I feel like Dromai is like, hey, if you don't bring him, it's like good luck. I'm just gonna steamroll you. So once she's gone, I think we enter even more of this specialist era. I don't know how it goes away. To be honest, I don't know which one of the existing heroes needs to like evolve into this huge beast to be like, this is the meta right now, work your deck around me. I don't see it right now, whereas in the
Hmm.
past I think we all suspected it would be Bravo, and yeah, he's up there, but there's
Mhm.
counters, there's strong counters, and there's workarounds, and there's people that are playing around with so many different things. I mean, I've been playing Viscerai. I've been playing like Looming Doom Viscerai and doing so well. And that's because the meta is slowed down. People are able to tinker and toy with things that they're familiar with. And because of that, we're almost all becoming better players at the game
Hmm.
because of it. So I love this meta, the best meta ever. And if you can even call it that, it's like the lack of meta right now.
Yeah, I guess you could
Yeah, I
put it
was
that
gonna
way too,
say,
right?
Yeah.
yeah, Viscerai, just for fun. This is Talishar, but Viscerai has the second highest win rate of any hero in the game
Yeah.
right now on
Yeah.
Talishar.
Yeah.
Like literally second highest, tied for second. So like,
It's so good.
it's just nutty when you think about that.
And Dylan was
Honestly,
sharing like a 16-0 Arachne deck and stuff. Like, dude, it's like these weren't
that day,
well,
I wish I would have bought a lottery ticket that day. But anyway, yeah, no.
but these things weren't possible with Fab 1.0 heroes. And to
Hmm.
Dylan's earlier point, people are still like, where is that power? Where is that level? And we're just not. I'm so thankful that LSS recognized that that wasn't healthy for us. That look how many heroes are able to enjoy, or people are able to enjoy the game because they can play whatever hero they want. Bolton is terrifying. And before, Bolton was like, that's hilarious. Have fun, little buddy. Hope you enjoy
You're
your
ready to lose
day.
Icelander. Yeah,
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 exactly.
right.
And now
yeah.
Bolton is like, I got him down to 2. Just kidding. He still won. Like, how is this even
Hmm.
possible? So yeah, I think the lack of meta, I guess we should start calling it, is the reason why we're all just able to freely enjoy ourselves right now. I hope it lasts a lot longer than the foreseeable future. I just want it to be this way. I want it to be this way. I don't want there to be a triangle of doom at the top of the meta. It's boring. It's old, and it leaves people from exploring cards, I think.
Well, let me segue into the second question because it kind of ties in with the old triangle of doom. There's this whole thought that like leading into this current meta that certain heroes would be higher, certain heroes would be lower, and like for example, Dash. I put Dash on screen. Dash did pretty well. Rose picked up a top 8. I believe that was also in the Battle Hardened this
Hmm.
past weekend, last weekend. And so people are showing up and showing out on their specialist heroes. Are there any heroes that you, in your opinion, are, I guess, underutilized currently, or are not performing as well as you perhaps would have thought? Are there any heroes maybe that stand out like Kayo did all of a sudden out of nowhere? What heroes stick out in your mind either way, either going up or going down, and trends? Kick us off, Breezy, and then TCG Talk will give us his take.
Hmm. Um. I mean, there for a little bit, Katsu was like the sauce. I mean, he still is. I mean, because literally just discussed that there's no hero that doesn't really have their own little level of sauce. But um, we all thought we were just entering this like crazy like ninja aggro meta, and it's just like we're not really. So I think that Fi Katsu are still like decks to beat for sure, but
Mm,
um, I I guess I just anticipated something maybe more explosive from that realm, I guess. At least
Yeah.
those are the ones that are like those we foresaw it. We were like, okay, Icelander's gone. They don't have to. They can just run the full gamut of whatever they want in their deck. They don't have to have any kind of jank in their deck to
yeah.
fight around this stuff. But it didn't really pop off. It didn't blow up so much. But then another hero that I'm like, I'm wishing would perform better is Vincent. I think of the two heroes, Vincent and Prism, we've seen Prism literally propel like almost overnight. It felt like into being, well, the new Luminaris was a big component of
Yeah,
that,
right.
but I mean, I've even seen Iris Prism still doing decently. It's still something. It's still working. It's still viable in a
It's
sense,
true.
um, but Vince said, I feel like, she's got such crazy on hits with the widespread cards. They're so good. That's exactly what Runeblade needs. They need on hits. They need threats other than here's this rune chant, have fun. Like we need true split damage, and it's there for her. Um, I don't know what's missing from that deck, but I think as soon as there's that missing component comes out, whether an expansion slot or whatever the next set supports Runeblades, I think that's going to be a deck to really watch out for. Seriously, like because she's pushing like 16, 17 like KO numbers
Yep.
with on hits, split damage. It's
She's
just her consistency is her problem.
Yeah, she's prone to disruption as well, and I think that's the really
Mm-hmm.
interesting thing is these. Maybe we're moving into an age now where there are decks that can just put damage, put numbers on the board, but they need specific things, or they need a lot of cards, or they need a lot of resources to do so. And if you disrupt that, then you're moving into that sort of a shakier frame. But what do you think,
Mm-hmm.
Dylan? What is your take? Are there standouts in this overall set or this meta right now?
There's no standouts. I think it just goes to the meta we were talking about at all. I think it's very region dependent. Like, go look at the Balhar in Manila. It was dominated by ninjas. Like, yes, a ninja didn't win, but there was 4 ninjas in the top 8. There was 3 Phis, which people are saying is unplayable right now in this
Yeah.
meta because of Victor, and 1 Katsu. And the Katsu was on a pouncing links only tenacity build. Like, just cool stuff, right? And I think that it's very region dependent. I think that certain decks, if they start to slightly rise to the top, or like be like Victor is the easiest one, for example, right? If Victor becomes this looming doom of block, 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 okay, well now Prism's coming into the meta, and good luck, Victor, because your poppers aren't as efficient as Bravos, and it's really hard for you to get around Prism. I think Prism's a really bad matchup for that deck. I think Kano destroys that deck if it comes to it, and KO does actually very well into Victor if both players are skilled, in my opinion. It's like I think we're in a situation where if one deck starts to creep, its counter will then get better, right?
Mm,
If Victor starts to get better, you'll see Prisms come in. If ninjas go nutty, you'll see fatigue Bravos and stuff like that come in. Um, I think that ninjas are being discredited a little bit, and that is not biased. I legitimately think they're better than people say they are. I think they're very much still playable. Really good ninja players are still going to perform well. Um, the one deck I wish would just be good already is Bolton. Like, good lord, you've and I mean like results wise, like the deck is good, but we haven't seen anyone do well with it
Yeah.
other than
Yeah.
Yuki and Ellie's run in that one tournament, right? Like, no one's done anything with the deck, and that deck has so many. I mean, that deck, when you think about it, that deck has, in my opinion, next to Ether Wildfire, the most broken single card in the game, which is Beacon of Victory, which is a 0 cost tutor the best card in your deck and play it, right? So, I like when you think
Monarch
about
right
what
there.
Beacon
Yeah.
of Victory actually does, right? So, like,
yep.
I just want to see Bolton do good, and I hate playing against Bolton. So I want to see that deck do good. And the other deck, which I love, I have such a soft spot for, is Max. I want to see Max still do good. That deck is one of the when people ask me what deck should I play for fun, Max is usually my first answer. It just
Mm,
feels so good. Like, it's a little expensive to build, but when you do the thing with that deck and you play high octane, you swing with your Mechanoid 4 times, it's just like you feel like you're a superhero. So like that deck is
yeah.
really fun. But yeah, no deck really stands out to me right now. I do think the early on, the consistent decks are going to win. Kayo, Kasai, Bravo, Victor, Dash. But overall, I think you're going to see these random one-off, like just off-meta decks that do well throughout this first like 2 months. Personally, I'm super excited to see like Battle Hardened Philly time frame, like mid-March.
Yeah.
I think that's really where the meta is going to start to set hard. So yeah, I'm excited for it.
I think it's at that point that we'll start to see spoilers for the next set as well. Here we're in the early stages of February, and there's a very good chance that we start to see spoilers for whatever set comes down the pipeline. And this meta is going to be, perhaps more established, and people are going to start looking towards what's coming down the pipeline. And yeah, it's really interesting because right now the meta is it feels very wide open and available for really anybody. As for tonight, though, it's shut down because TCG Talk here has scored the most points and has picked up the win. Breezy let him win because he just moved into his new place.
He just had a flat tire,
You just had to give him that moral victory.
2 days, so I appreciate it.
Just picking up the win with the hot takes and the solid commentary on the meta as we talk about it in heavy hitters. But congratulations, sir! You win this singular, double-sided, tiny token. This one is yours. I will sign it. Huge. No, I won't sign it. I'll just mail it to you. Even better.
Imagine you sign it.
Oh, there you go.
If you sign it, I'll actually keep it. And
dude, we're doing that. I'll sign it and mail it to you.
I'll sell it.
That would be hilarious. We should definitely do that. That's what we need to do. Congratulations.
I'm gonna make you point it out in a stream at an event. Like, hey, that's a signed token from
signed agility token. That's the one. Or this, I don't know. Maybe you'll use this with Kayo because I heard he's pretty good in the meta right now. Nevertheless, do you want to say anything about your victory this evening?
No, nothing really. I'm glad there's a lot of positivity in the game right now. Like, I think we went through a little bit of a rough patch there, community-wise, and obviously, like, I live on Twitter probably more than I should, and it just seems like everybody's very positive, both casually and competitively right now. I haven't seen a whole lot. Like, of course, not everybody's going to be 100%, but I just wanted, for the amount of people that are watching the stream, like, please keep that positivity going because I think this year's going to have a lot of, like, different products that we haven't seen before. Like, they keep hinting at it. So I think that this year is going to be a really fun year and a year where other trading card games are kind of, like, not having the most positive sentiment. Like, I hope Flesh and Blood keeps that going, honestly.
I totally agree. I'm a big fan. I changed this over to this screen because I thought I'd pull up something on the window capture so that we could take a look at on the internet, but I don't think we're going to do that. Because I do have one more follow-up question just for fun. Now that the points are done and we're just here hanging out in the post game, my question for you is this. It's the bonus question of the episode. Where do you think we will have Flesh and Blood Worlds this year? You won the episode, so you get to answer the question first, Mr. Dylan TCG Talk.
Yeah, I wish. No. No, so last year was in Europe, right? Year before that was in US.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to have an I wish answer, and then I'm going to have an I think answer. I wish it would be in Japan.
Okay.
They're releasing an APAC this year.
Yep.
It would make it a logistical nightmare, so it probably wouldn't happen. A lot of people would have to travel. But the game, according to like James White, is like the second most like grossing area for the game right now, and it's like it would just be super cool. Like Worlds in Tokyo would just be like unbelievable or something like that. That's my wish. No, I think it'll be in the US. I think that's just where the player base is. If I had to give a spot, probably West Coast again. That's the boring answer. But I hope one day we have a Worlds in Tokyo or somewhere in the APAC region. It doesn't have to be in Japan. Because I would love to travel to that area of the world. It's the one area, literally the one area of the world I have not traveled. So I would enjoy that.
Parker, what do you got?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like it would be Japan, but maybe it's not maybe it's not established yet. I feel like it would be like robbing
Dallas Worlds. Come on,
dude.
Please,
except it would be in Fort Worth,
the esports capital of the world, and yeah, it's in Fort Worth, and I hate it so much. Like,
get out of here. Yeah, Plano Worlds. Yeah, that'd be great.
Let's
agree.
go.
Yeah. No, I think it's going to be in Japan. I think that like there's two sides to it. I feel like LSS and James White personally are so eager to get to
Oh
APAC
yeah, they're
and have
stoked.
like a
Mhm.
huge event there that they would push it sooner than it probably needs to be. Like because in reality, I think they would let APAC like simmer on full availability for a year before introducing it there. But I don't know. I
Hmm.
feel like they're just so eager to let it go. I think bringing it back to the States would be like I know it's facts, like the numbers show. It's not favoritism because the US just does statistically have more player per square inch, I guess you could say, of the game. It's just that way. But I don't know. I hope it's not in the US. I hope it's not
Hmm.
for the sake of just like seeing the world playing the game.
Yeah. Play the
We're all
game, see the
here.
world, man.
Don't make them come here. We're all already here. Make
All right.
us
Look,
let's go.
I'm going to give you my answer. I think and feel deeply within my soul with no other knowledge except what I believe that it will be in Japan. And I really hope that it is because that will be so awesome. And I will
hmm
1000% travel to Japan, which is the dream of a lifetime trip for me. I will 1000% travel to Japan. I will speak in my terrible broken Japanese, and I will have the best time ever playing beautiful card games with beautiful people in one of the most beautiful countries that stole my heart many years ago. So I am
hmm
desperately hoping that it's in Japan. But if it's not, I love the idea of it being in like Singapore or the Philippines. I think it's going to be APAC. I really do. And I think for all of the reasons that they've already picked all of these other locations, I think it'll be APAC because they've selected the next Pro Tour to be in LA, so it's on the West Coast in the US. They've done the pattern of US Worlds, then Europe Worlds, and so APAC is sort of the next region. You could consider like APAC and then also maybe like Australia, New Zealand. But then they just did Queenstown, the celebrational in New Zealand. And so I'm
hmm
thinking to myself, like, they're hitting all of these regions so well that
hmm
it makes sense for them to take it to APAC. I
Yeah.
think that would be so cool. But even if it's not Japan, I think it'd be amazing to go visit the Philippines. I've had some family friends that were from the Philippines, and every time they talked about it, I was like, oh, I would love to experience what that is actually like. And so like there's just tons of
I
it.
agree. Yeah.
Tons. I would love it. But you know what, if it's in the US, it makes it far easier for me to travel to.
Sure.
So I
Right.
guess
Yeah.
there's that.
Selfishly, if it is in the US, I'd more likely be able to go. If it's in Japan, I don't know. I probably can't go this year.
Oh, I don't
I
know.
know. I know. That's why I'm like, not this year. Not this year. Please, not this year.
I would love for it to be. I would make it work. I would find a way to make it work because that is just for me, that is the destination of a lifetime. New Zealand was, I think, like second on my list of places I wanted to go, and
Mm.
Japan has been first since I was like 7 years old. So yeah, that's my hope one day to visit, and hopefully it'll be via playing great games with great people and seeing the
That's
world.
right.
But ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of Give and Take episode number 3. If I press this button, the music plays, so that's pretty cool. There it is, end of episode 3. We now leave you with some parting words. I will begin, and my parting words are this. These little tokens are amazing, and we need more of them. And so I'm going to create miniature tokens for the DM Armada patrons, and I'm going to give them to them. Spoiler, I have the first one being worked on right now. There's my parting words.
What?
It's awesome. It's gonna be awesome,
Let's
and
just see
I'm
it real
getting
quick.
it. Oh, you know what? Maybe next time. Maybe next time
Okay.
I'll have something down the pipeline.
If they made
Parting
those small,
words.
small cold foil, I would
Dude.
shell out to buy those.
That would be
Yeah.
nuts. That would be insane. That'd be so good. Parting words from Breezy. Go.
I'll just piggyback on that. Whenever the all arcane set comes out, if there aren't many rune chants, I'm gonna quit Flesh and Blood.
Whoa, that is the hottest take you gave today right now. You're gonna quit
I'm just
Flesh
saying.
and Blood. I love that. Why
If
did
I
we
don't-
save that till the
I
end? We
love
should have
that.
led with that.
I love that. You're gonna quit.
Oh.
I love it.
Oh,
I
finally.
need little rune chants, please. I want 15 little rune chants on the
Tiny
stack.
miniature
right?
rune chants. Begin.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Dylan, kill us with your final one. Lay it on us.
If Mysteria gets released before Worlds, I win Worlds.
What? What a
No, I
way
hope
to
Mysteria
finish.
gets
You will win Worlds.
Give me
That's
another ninja to play that no one else
Dang.
has played that I get to experiment with, and I'll go to Worlds as a player and try to win it.
and you will win Worlds. Well, Mysteria, maybe this year, but right now it's the end. Goodbye, everyone. See you later. Have a good evening. Wash your hands.
Seriously.
So on and so forth.